The moment I knew something was wrong came disguised as a perfectly normal Sunday afternoon. I had just returned from the grocery store, eggs, oat milk, a half-hearted bouquet of grocery store tulips, when my phone buzzed with a Slack notification from my art director at Hollow and Pen Publishing. Hey Claire, just wanted to let you know we gave the Bravery Bear cover project to Jeremy. Your thumbnails were great. We just thought his line work popped more. Thanks for all your sketches, though. Jeremy was 23. He'd been at the agency for 3 months, and he used my exact layout. I opened the email attachment. His mock-up was my concept, down to the pose and background foliage. They hadn't even changed the palette. My hand shook as I put the milk away. I stared at the fridge door, at the magnet Lily had made from popsicle sticks and glitter glue. I should have replied with something clever or sharp, but all I could type was, "Understood. Thanks for letting me know." That's who I'd become lately. Understandable, replaceable, soft. It wasn't until 6:18 p.m., exactly 1 hour after I picked Lily up from her weekend with the Blakes, that I noticed the bruise. She was changing into her pajamas, her pink unicorn tee lifting slightly above her elbow. "Sweetie," I said gently, kneeling beside her, "what happened to your arm?" She froze. Not a flinch, not a yelp. Just this eerie, adult-like stillness. "I bumped into the patio door," she mumbled, eyes averted. But it wasn't a bump. It was a fingerprint. 5 distinct blotches, angry red, wrapped around her forearm like the ghost of someone's grip. My blood turned cold. "Lily, look at me. Who grabbed your arm?" She hesitated. Then, "Grandma said not to make it a big deal." I sat back hard on my heels. The kitchen hummed quietly behind us. My pulse pounded in my ears. Earlier that weekend, I had dropped Lily off at Margaret Blake's estate, David's mother, my ex-mother-in-law. The Blake estate was practically a museum, velvet couches no one sat on, a smell like expensive lemon oil and suppressed secrets. "Don't forget Mr. Whiskers," I said, as we pulled into the driveway. Lily hugged her stuffed cat tighter. She didn't smile. Margaret was waiting on the porch, wearing her trademark smile, sharp as a blade, surgically polite. "You're late," she said, glancing at my 10-year-old Honda like it offended her property value. "We're 5 minutes early," I replied, gripping the steering wheel tighter than necessary. Inside, the house was as silent and watchful as ever. Children's laughter filtered in from the backyard, but Lily hesitated at the threshold. "Go on," Margaret urged. "Ethan's been asking for you." Lily flinched, just a little, just enough. Now, back in our apartment, Lily climbed into bed without asking for a story. That alone was unusual. My daughter had a bedtime ritual tighter than TSA protocol. 3 stories, 1 song, 2 kisses. Tonight, she pulled the covers to her chin and stared at the ceiling. I opened my laptop and started typing. A bulleted list, dates, incidents, notes on behavior, pictures of the bruise, time-stamped. I felt like I was building a case file instead of parenting. And I was, because Margaret Blake had gone too far. The next morning, I called Naomi Reyes. She had once helped a friend of mine navigate a custody dispute with her ex-husband, and she came highly recommended. Smart, relentless, and allergic to bullshit. "Naomi, this is Claire Morgan. I need your help. And I need you to tell me if I'm overreacting." I told her everything. About Lily's silence, the bruise, the history, the subtle digs from David, about me being too emotional, the time Ethan locked Lily in the coat closet, the apology Margaret demanded from Lily after it happened. When I was done, there was a long pause on the line. "You're not overreacting," Naomi said. "You're finally reacting." That night, I sat with Lily on the couch, her head resting against my side. We watched a documentary about hummingbirds while I mentally planned my next steps: school counselor, pediatrician, legal file. "I didn't want to tell you," Lily said quietly. "Because last time I did, Grandma said I was tattling." "She told you not to tell me?" "She said it would just upset you, that I should be stronger." "Did your dad say anything?" Lily shrugged. "He said Ethan's just energetic, that I should stand up for myself more." I looked at her, this small, brave, soft-spoken human being I loved more than anything, and felt the rage coil like smoke in my chest. They weren't just minimizing her pain, they were teaching her to internalize it. 2 days later, I received a message from David. Mom's very upset about what happened this weekend. You overreacted, again. Ethan's just a boy. Lily needs to toughen up. He still didn't know I'd contacted a lawyer. He still thought I was playing the same game. Stay polite, don't escalate, swallow it for the sake of appearances. But I wasn't playing anymore. I was documenting, preparing, building something too solid to dismiss. I wasn't the girl who said, "It's fine." I was the mother who said, "Try me." If you've ever been overlooked after giving your all or told your pain wasn't real, type 1. You're not invisible. You were never the problem. The email arrived on a Thursday morning. Subject line, Notice of Custody Review, Blake v. Morgan. I clicked it, expecting a formality. Instead, it was a bomb. David was filing for full custody of Lily. The grounds? Maternal emotional instability, parental alienation, and fabrication of abuse claims leading to unnecessary trauma. My coffee mug slipped from my hand, shattering across the tile floor. Parental alienation, fabrication. Trauma? I stared at the screen, breath caught in my throat, rage and disbelief bleeding into one another. This wasn't just an attempt to discredit me. It was a declaration of war. Naomi's voice, calm and precise as ever, cut through the static in my mind when I called her. "They're going nuclear," she said, "which means we hit record on everything, starting now. Every text, email, conversation, no more verbal agreements." "What if they actually win?" I asked quietly, my voice cracking. "They won't," Naomi replied, "because they've underestimated the one thing they can't control." "What?" "The truth." That afternoon, I met with Dr. Teresa Monroe, the school counselor who'd been seeing Lily since first grade. She sat across from me, her desk scattered with drawings, colorful pipe cleaner figures, and files. "I've been concerned," she admitted. Her participation dropped. She flinches when touched unexpectedly. Her drawings have shifted. She slid one across the desk. It showed a small girl in a tight, dark room. Outside the door stood a boy with exaggerated angry eyes, arms crossed, watching. Across the top, written in Lily's neatest print, "The bad place." I swallowed. Did she talk about it? Not directly, but she said she feels safe at school and at home, nowhere else. Naomi and I began to build what she called a reality wall, one brick at a time. We collected photos of Lily's bruises, Dr. Monroe's notes, behavioral changes logged by her teacher, Claire's old texts from David dismissing past complaints. But the game changed when Ashley Cho messaged me. "Claire, it's Ashley. I used to nanny for the Blakes. I heard what's happening. I have something to show you." We met at a small coffee shop just off Main. Ashley looked nervous, glancing over her shoulder like someone was watching. She was younger than I remembered. Early 20s, ponytail, oversized hoodie. "They made me sign an NDA when they let me go," she said. "Said I was overstepping." "Why were you fired?" "Because I believed a girl," she said simply. Ashley scrolled through her phone, then handed it to me. A series of text messages. Margaret Blake, complaining about sensitive children making trouble. One message read, "Ethan is spirited. We don't need every skinned knee turned into a lawsuit." Ashley explained, "He locked a girl in the basement once. During a birthday party, Judith said the girl imagined it, that she was dramatic, that she just got scared and made up the rest." She looked me in the eyes, but I knew she didn't. I had barely processed Ashley's revelation when my phone vibrated again. Private number, unknown sender, one video file attached, no message, no signature, just the file. I tapped play. The footage was grainy, time-stamped in the upper right. The living room of the Blake estate. Lily stood beside a toy chest. Ethan approached. Without warning, he shoved her hard. She fell against the wall, out of frame. Seconds later, Margaret entered, looked directly at them, and walked away. No reaction, no reprimand, just silence. I replayed it 4 times. It was damning and devastating. I forwarded it to Naomi. "Naomi, where did this come from?" Me. Anonymous, probably someone inside. Naomi, "This changes everything. This is more than testimony, it's visual proof, and it proves Margaret saw it. Me. Will it hold up? Naomi. We'll make sure it does. But the moment I began to feel a flicker of hope, Margaret struck back. It started with emails to mutual acquaintances. Subtle. Cold. I worry for Lily. Claire seems unstable lately. Then calls to Lily's school, inquiring, off the record, whether I'd been acting erratic. By the weekend, my landlord had called me. Just checking in, he said hesitantly. I received an anonymous message suggesting you were having issues. Should I be concerned about late rent? We'd never missed a payment. They weren't just fighting back. They were trying to erase me. At night, I stayed up cataloging everything. I turned my journal into a digital file. Every bruise, every conversation, every subtle manipulation. I didn't want my words to be a story. I needed them to be evidence. The blog was Naomi's idea. Anonymous, clean, just the facts. Let the internet do what it does best, echo truth. I titled it, When They Tell You to Apologize for Being Hurt. I didn't mention names, but people would recognize the pattern. I wasn't alone. David called after midnight that Saturday. You're ruining lives, Claire. You filed for custody. I'm protecting my child. You're poisoning Lily against her family. Your mother let your nephew assault our daughter, on camera. Silence. Keep pushing this, he said finally, and I'll make sure you never see her again. There was no rage in my voice when I replied, just steel. Try me. If you've ever had to fight just to be believed, type 2. The world may silence us, but our stories will never disappear. The courtroom was colder than I expected, literally and metaphorically. The central AC hummed above our heads, and Margaret Blake's eyes were icier than the marble columns that framed the judge's bench. But it wasn't the chill that stunned me. It was the sight of Ethan, 10 years old, dressed in a miniature navy blazer, sitting next to Margaret like some polished executive in training. He smirked at me the moment our eyes met. No fear, no remorse. I felt Lily's small hand tighten around mine as she whispered, "Why is he smiling?" Because he thought no one could stop him, not anymore. Judge Eliza Grant took her seat with the kind of gravity that made the room hold its breath. Silver-haired, sharp-eyed, and famously unshakable, she was known in legal circles as the Wall, not because she blocked people, but because nothing ever got past her. "Let's begin," she said. "This is the preliminary hearing for custody reassessment between David Blake and Claire Morgan." David's attorney, Harrison Wells, wasted no time objecting. "Your Honor, we move to strike the video submitted by the respondent. It was acquired anonymously and may have been altered. Its chain of custody is unverifiable." Judge Grant raised an eyebrow. "Are you asserting that the video doesn't show what it appears to show?" "I'm asserting it may not tell the whole story," he said smoothly. "Without full context, the footage is misleading. Ethan and Lily have a known pattern of roughhousing." Naomi stood. Roughhousing doesn't leave finger-shaped bruises, and context doesn't matter when a child is being pushed down while an adult watches and does nothing. The judge leaned back, fingers steepled. "I will allow the footage to be considered. Its authenticity has not been formally contested, and the events depicted are relevant. Proceed." The video was played for the room. The silence afterward was suffocating. David looked away. Margaret didn't flinch. I didn't dare glance at Lily. I had watched it too many times already, her body hitting the floor, her confusion, Ethan's cruel grin. Instead, I focused on the judge's face, and for the first time, I saw something in her eyes. Fury. Cold, judicial fury. "Let's hear from the child psychologist," she said. Dr. Emily Monroe took the stand. Dr. Monroe had been working with Lily for weeks. Calm, measured, but piercing in her precision, she laid it out with professional grace. Lily exhibits clear trauma responses tied specifically to interactions with her cousin Ethan and her grandmother, Margaret Blake, she began. Her drawings, verbal disclosures, and nonverbal behavior suggest a consistent pattern of emotional and physical abuse minimized by surrounding adults. Wells stood. "Objection, hearsay. The child may have been coached. Dr. Monroe didn't blink. I've evaluated over 300 children. Lily's accounts are consistent, detailed, and emotionally congruent. Coaching tends to fall apart under scrutiny. Lily's stories remain intact. The objection was overruled, she continued. She told me, in her words, "When I get hurt at Grandma's, it's my fault." That statement alone is deeply concerning. Ashley Cho, the former nanny, testified next. Despite attempts by Wells to discredit her as a disgruntled former employee, she held firm. She was the golden boy, Ashley said of Ethan. Judith, sorry Margaret, defended him no matter what he did. If a child cried, she said they were weak. If Ethan hit someone, she said they provoked him. Did you witness any violent incidents? Naomi asked. Yes, on at least 3 occasions. One time, he threw a toy truck at another kid's face. Margaret made the kid apologize for startling him. And what happened when you raised concerns? I was fired the next day, the courtroom murmured. Wells objected, overruled again. Then came Heather Watson. She sat stiffly in the witness chair, voice trembling. My daughter was locked in the Blakes' basement during a party 2 years ago. She told me Ethan did it. Did you report it? The judge asked. We were paid to stay quiet, Heather admitted. We signed an NDA. And why break it now? Because I read that blog, Claire's words, and I saw my daughter in her story. I couldn't stay silent anymore. Naomi brought out printed emails next. Copies provided by Patricia Dunning, Margaret's longtime assistant, who had quietly slipped into the room earlier that morning. These are communications between Margaret Blake and the headmaster of Ethan's private school, Naomi said. 3 separate bullying incidents, resolved with substantial donations to the school's foundation. Wells's face paled for the first time. I object to the admissibility. I'm ruling it in, Judge Grant said flatly. You're not in control of this courtroom, Mr. Wells. Margaret finally shifted in her seat. At recess, I stepped outside for air. David followed. What are you doing, Claire? Do you really want this circus to define our daughter's life? No, I said. I want Lily to live a life where she knows she's not crazy, not weak, and not alone. His jaw clenched. This will destroy our family's name. Your mother did that herself. Drop this now, he said quietly, and I'll drop the custody suit. We walk away even. I stared at him, seeing through the charm and the desperation. You think this is still a negotiation? I said. It's not. Back inside, Judge Grant addressed the room. In light of this testimony and the weight of submitted evidence, I am issuing a temporary protective order. She glanced at Margaret, then Ethan. Lily Morgan is to have no unsupervised contact with Ethan Blake or Margaret Blake until further review. David Blake may have supervised visitation only, pending completion of parenting courses and acknowledgement of the court's concerns. The room was silent, except for the sound of Margaret's pearl bracelet clinking as her hand clenched around Ethan's. If you've ever been in a room where people tried to talk over your truth, type 3, because silence doesn't mean surrender. The certified envelope arrived on a rainy Wednesday morning, heavy in my mailbox like a weight waiting to fall. I recognized the return address immediately, Wells and Fraser, LLP. Hands trembling, I slid it open at the kitchen counter, while Lily finished her oatmeal in the next room, humming a song she'd written herself in music class. Inside, a final legal declaration. David had officially withdrawn his request for custody. No more courtroom dates, no more filings, no more veiled threats. He had walked away, or maybe finally he had stepped back. But there was no apology, not even a line. Later that afternoon, while Lily worked on a watercolor assignment at the kitchen table, I sat down and reopened my email. My blog, When They Tell You to Apologize for Being Hurt, had now reached over 70,000 shares. The latest comment read, My daughter drew the same kind of boxes in therapy. Thank you for showing us we're not alone. I wanted to write something back, something eloquent and comforting, but all I typed was, neither were we. A week later, the courthouse was full again, not for judgment, but for closure. Judge Grant's final ruling gave me full legal and physical custody of Lily. David retained supervised visitation, but only after completing a parenting course and undergoing family therapy. Margaret and Ethan were under a no-contact order, with the court acknowledging a pattern of negligence and active harm. As the ruling was read, Margaret sat frozen in her seat. No expression, no tears, just the faint twitch of her jaw. Ethan didn't look up from the floor, and still, not a word of apology. Afterward, in the parking lot, David approached me. He looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, but diminished. His voice was steady, but unsure. "I've started therapy," he said. "I'm seeing what I missed, what I let happen. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know." I nodded slowly. "Acknowledgement isn't forgiveness," I said. "But it's a start." "And Ethan?" I asked. "He's in a therapeutic boarding program in Vermont. They say it'll take time. They also said it should have started 3 years ago." I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt something else. Relief, maybe. Or closure, if such a thing was possible. "You know what's ironic?" he added. "What?" "I don't even know if my mother ever believed he was innocent. I think she just didn't want anyone else to see him as guilty." Lily and I began rebuilding. Friday nights became pizza and movie nights. Her drawings shifted from boxes and monsters to sunlit forests, girl superheroes, and once, a rabbit holding a lantern. When I asked what it meant, she said, "She's lighting the way out." The blog turned into a community. Parents emailed me. Advocates invited me to panels. Naomi's firm asked me to co-author a resource guide for families dealing with court-involved child abuse cases. Still, part of me waited, some quiet corner of my heart, that maybe someday we'd hear a real apology. But it never came. The turning point happened on a rainy Friday morning. Lily's school called. Her poem, "I'm Not Sorry," had been selected for publication in a statewide children's literary journal. She had written it weeks ago, in the quiet aftermath of the trial. 8 lines, honest, bold. She read it to me in the living room that night. They told me to be quiet, to make it go away, that hurting meant I started it, that silence was okay. But now I draw in colors, and now I speak my name. I'm not sorry for the truth, and I won't take the blame. I cried. Not because it was sad, but because it was freeing. At the state poetry ceremony, Lily stood on stage in a blue dress she picked herself, reading her words into a microphone with her chin held high. I watched from the audience, sitting beside Naomi and Patricia, who both squeezed my hand when she finished. The crowd stood, applauding not just the poem but the child who refused to be invisible, and still, not a word from Margaret. One morning, I received a call from Naomi. "Judith Blake has resigned from all board positions at the Blake Family Foundation." "Voluntarily?" I asked. "Not exactly," she said. "Let's just say there's an internal audit underway. Someone leaked her emails." "Was it Patricia?" "She won't say, but I suspect so." We sat in silence for a moment before I asked, "Do you think she regrets it?" "The emails? Or the cover-ups?" "No, not apologizing." Naomi exhaled. "People like Margaret don't apologize, Claire, but they feel the consequences. That's how you know they're real." Weeks passed, then months. Lily grew bolder in her artwork. I received a book deal from a small press, part memoir, part resource. Naomi's firm launched a child advocacy unit, with her as lead partner. One evening, Lily and I sat on our apartment balcony watching fireflies. She leaned her head on my shoulder. "Do you think Ethan will ever say sorry?" she asked. "I don't know," I said truthfully. "But you don't need his apology to know it wasn't your fault." She nodded. "I don't think I want one anymore. I just wanted to be safe." "You are now," I whispered, "and you always will be." A few days later, a package arrived from the publisher. Inside, the first printed copy of the poetry journal. Lily's poem was on page 3. She flipped to it, smiled, and looked up at me. "Do you think it'll help someone else?" I smiled. "I think it already has." If you've ever had to heal without an apology, type 4. Sometimes the closure comes from you, not them.